It is another huge week for women's rugby. A couple of weeks out now from the Six Nations, and we think, as we were recording, that we are getting some fixture news. Lo and behold, we have got Alison Hughes to put some meat on the bone of the WXV announcement last week. It is only positive news coming out of the women's game. We've got results as ever. We've got the fixtures. We've got the opinions of a World Cup winner. I'm Johnny Hammond.
And I'm Rachel Burford.
And this is the Women's Rugby Pod. Morning, Burf. How are we? How's the calf? Are we back to full-on training now?
Almost. No, things are really good. Thank you, Johnny, for asking. Back training a lot more. Quite ahead of schedule at the moment, so it's all good on a personal front. What about yourself? Good. How are you doing?
Yeah, fine, thank you. The news bearing down on us. Lots and lots of positives around women's sport. Perhaps we'll touch on the football in a sec. But literally dropping as we were recording on this early Tuesday morning is the news that large swathes of the Women's Six Nations is to be broadcast on the BBC terrestrial channel. Good news for you?
Yeah, I think it's brilliant news. Look, I know there's been a lot of noise about time getting it out there and talking about it, but I think look, we've got them now, so let's get behind it. Let's get excited about it. We know that there's a good audience and an appetite there with the figures that came out of the autumn internationals. So yeah, really pleased, really excited. Let's get some hype behind it. Yeah, can't wait for it to kick off in 10 days? 10 days time?
Yeah, it's around that. Yeah, I mean, extraordinary that we're only just finding out now, and that's not that's official. That's come from Fee Thomas to the Telegraph. Yeah, so let's just tell you now verbally, and we'll put this all out on our social media. Obviously, that first weekend, England against Scotland, up at the mighty Donny Castle Park, 3:00 BBC iPlayer. First weekend, France against Wales on the iPlayer as well at 8:00. Second round, let's just do that for now. Italy, England is on the iPlayer. That's 2:00. Wales against Ireland on BBC Wales and the BBC iPlayer. Now, final weekend, that England game is going to go on BBC Two. So yes, not difficult for people to find, because I think we've got our regular rugby fans. They're going to find those games wherever they are. But I think we've got to make it easy for people. And there's no criticism here at the broadcaster, because I suspect this late in the day, it's very difficult to even fit the sort of games in. So that has to be laid back at the tournament organisers, who still unable to get in contact with us or reply to our sort of offers of help to support or what have you. But yeah, great. That final game is on BBC Two, and it's out there and on terrestrial television. So yeah, a really, really good bit of news. A bit like the women's football as well. That's some good news this week, Beth.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, seeing the amount of investment they're now getting for broadcast, you know, it's been in the pipeline, and you know, everybody always talks about rugby as being a few years behind football. Well, hopefully, you know, that announcement can help us accelerate in that space as well.
Yeah, that's a proper commitment from a broadcaster. That is. Take note, ye all. Moving on to the club game then, Berth. Harlequins and Saracens already qualified for the semi-finals. Probably not a surprise to many, but boy, those semi-finals.
Yeah, right. It's going to be real. Like whoever finishes in the third and fourth position, it is going to be an absolute tough battle. Really proud that we've made it in, obviously, and I'm sure Saracens will feel the same. But yeah, it's been a tough year. Set aside COVID and everything like that, just in terms of fixtures and results, we haven't seen a year like it where we've got upsets, you know, knocking the top teams off, and so yeah, it makes business then so exciting. And yeah, I mean, the next couple of weeks is going to be pretty tasty for those third and fourth playoffs.
Indeedy so. We'll go into some Premier 15s news a little bit later on. But let's get to our guest amid all this good news. We just felt the WXV global competition that World Rugby have put together. It came to us rather a rush last week. We obviously gave it initial reactions, but just wanted to get a little bit of meat on the bone. There was a few questions, a few people suggesting various bits on social media. So we've got Alison Hughes on coming up now. She's the current World Rugby Competitions Operations Manager and Rugby World Cup 2022 Tournament Director. So let's just remind you then of the WXV. It's a 16-team, 3-tier global competition set to begin in 2023. 6.4 million investment from World Rugby in the first 2 years. Unified International 15s calendar comprised of 2 playing windows. Can't even read my notes this morning, Berth. And on an annual basis, optimizing player welfare and performance. Groundbreaking global international 15s calendar set to accelerate development of the women's game ahead of expanded World Cup 2025. Calendar reflects World Rugby's long-term commitment to establishing a high, competitive and global test calendar to elevate standards. WXV offers hosts diversified revenue-generating opportunities. There's the media claptrap. Let's hear it from the lady herself. Here's Alison Hughes.
Great to have you on with us today, Alison. Some huge news coming out that rippled around the globe for women's rugby. I mean, can you take us back to where this all began, all the conversations, the ideas, the pen to paper, and kind of help us through that process and help our listeners understand how you kind of started and then where we are to announcement, all excitement, all eyes on 2023.
Good morning, Rachel. Thank you very much for having me. Gosh, how long is the programme? So I would bring you back to September 2018, and we were in a room in Australia with a load of our regional association representatives, and we started talking about women's high performance, 7s, 15s, all things women's. Looking forward to 21, looking forward to Olympics, looking forward to 7s World Cups, and the germ of an idea came from, all credit to Mark Egan, former head of our competitions area, and Peter Horn, who's currently in our HP area, our high performance, and said, you know, wouldn't it be great to get a structure on our October, November or September, October window? Wouldn't it be great to give everybody a focus, let everybody be able to channel through to from regional competitions into an annual competition? And that germ just took and spread. And so we had lots of workshops in Dublin, we had calls, we had Zooms, we had presentations to all of our various committees. We came up with lots of different plans for them to consider. And we came back through consultation with all of the unions in all the regions. We talked and talked and talked about this with everybody who had an interest in women's 15s and settled on this 3-match programme. 16 teams every year. You have to qualify out of your regional competition to get into it, and it's an amazing step forward, I think, for women's 15s. It gives us, for the first time, program managers can plan from Rugby World Cup to Rugby World Cup and know exactly what they're aiming for. So, great step forward. Yeah, delighted to have it out there.
100%. Of course, there'll be a few bits that people go, and it's individual nations or whatever. But as a general whole, it is unbelievable news, Alison. How I just wanted to pop in and just ask how easy. I mean, you see, you came together in that room in Australia, probably an Oki Chardonnay on the go, something like that, and just putting the bits and pieces together. In the men's game, and this is my personal opinion, it's so fragmented. It's very, very difficult to organise. It seems completely opposite in the women's game. Is that a psychological thing that everybody buys into trying to grow the game, or is it in its infancy that you can shape it quite easy because it's quite embryonic, or is it a touch of both? I
think it is a touch of both. I think we have there is an awful lot of commercial activity, more so now than ever, but even back then, even in 18 and 19, and that's how fast things are moving in that space, that the commercial and the broadcast elements to it were limited in some regions, were a little bit more expansive in others. And so we had the opportunity to mold and shape and then present that molded version to broadcasters and to commercial partners and sponsors, as opposed to having to back out deals and then have to reshape and present it again. So we were able to do that. We were able to talk about a clear enough space to be able to create a competition that then would be really exciting and attractive for everybody to sell in their local markets. So yeah, there was a little bit of that. There was a little bit of you know, a real engagement and a real desire from everybody who was working in the women's 15 space and the women's space in total, really, to do something creative. And really, some of the egos were left outside the door. A lot of people, you know, who came particularly to a meeting we had in Hong Kong in May of 2019. I have to think about that. We certainly weren't there in 2020, but in 2019, and a lot of conversations started with, that won't suit our team, but it's better for the game. A lot of conversations over 2 days started like that, and it was a privilege really to sit in that room and listen to those men and women talk about how they really wanted to improve the lot of women's players, and were prepared to do pretty much whatever it took to make that happen.
Oh, it's brilliant to hear that, because yeah, it's that's a little bit like hen's teeth, isn't it? Hearing stuff like that. What is it also? And I get the impression that you've got your leading nations, you know, in terms of commercially and on the field and what have you. You look at England, New Zealand, France, these kind of players. Is this model also designed to push everyone up to that more of that kind of level, and just give us a little bit of detail as to how that's going to happen, Alison, would you?
Okay, so 16 teams in this competition overall. Every year 16 teams will compete. We've kept each of the levels to 3 matches, so that does 2 things. One is it doesn't overburden those unions who maybe wouldn't have experienced that much test rugby in a year at the moment. But it does give a sufficient amount of matches to some, and because we're keeping it to 3 matches, and we're the actual window itself from September to October is 7 weeks long, it gives those nations who are capable and want to and have a desire to play far more rugby, it gives them a broader window in which to do that. So it's kind of catering to all tastes, if you like, all shapes and sizes, as we would normally do. So 3 levels. Level 1 is 16 tournament, single venue, 2 pools of 3. They'll play cross pool. They'll be the top 3 from the 6 nations and the top 3 from a new regional competition that we'll run, which will be Australia, Canada, USA, and New Zealand. And so those top teams will play against each other. Then the next 2 levels are a 6-team and a 4-team tournament. And again, these are some of the teams that would have a desire to play a lot of rugby, and some teams who are coming up through the pathway. And there's an opportunity there for every team who competes well in their regional competition to go on and equally take that higher slot and compete well in WXV. So there's an opportunity for teams really to have an aspirational tournament to play in, first of all, to really want to play in those higher levels, but equally playing against teams that are in their own level, suitable for them. And then an opportunity always to come in to that 16 competition, because the bottom of level 3 will have to play off against the next best ranked team. So always an opportunity then for those, for teams below the 16 to come in and break through into that. So always an opportunity to rise through the WXV ranks and to break into the competition itself.
I think we asked our listeners to have any sort of areas qualify and just clear up for us since the dust has settled since the announcement. The Tier 1 relegation promotion seems to be a kind of the main kind of talking point. The floor is yours, Alison, to clarify that for people. Promotion relegation from Tier 1 is suspended basically just for year 1, as I understand it.
That's it. For the first cycle, which will be 23 and 24.
Cycle, yeah.
So and remember, it's the regional positions that are promoted and relegated. So it may end up being 3 different teams from 6 nations every year, because you have to go back and qualify. So we're not saying this is the top 3 teams and they go in and they stay in for 2 or 3 years. They go in for the first year, and then they must go back through their regional competition and they must compete again. So, for example, the first year could be England, France, and Scotland, let's say. But all 3 teams have to go back through 6 nations. So the next year could be England, Scotland, and Ireland equally. So while we're keeping the structure, the regional place structure of level 1 set for the first year, and really that's just to help us bed in. It's to help us attract those commercial partners, those broadcast partners, get some certainty in terms of hosting for that year, for that level, for those 2 years, I beg your pardon. But every year those teams could and potentially will change. So again, it's allowing fluidity for all of the teams and allowing access for all of the teams. Nothing is set from year to year.
With that third place in the 6 nations being a qualifier, which will make another element to the 6 nations. Where does that leave Spain? Another sort of question that's out there.
Yeah. So level 2 and level 3 also have 2 places for Europe each. So 7 places for Europe in the 16-team format. And we've asked Rugby Europe and 6 Nations to have a conversation about how those places are determined. At what point is there a playoff? How is it decided where that team from, one would assume, the top of the Rugby Europe Championship, but I don't want to put words in their mouth. They're going to come back with conversations and tell us what's happening there. But definitely space, no doubt about it. We're just waiting to see how we're going to put that 7th European team in and where they're going to slot in and how they're going to earn the right to do that.
So one more from me, Berth. Australasia, six places. Yeah. Yes. Why? Some people think that's a little bit top heavy. Why particularly that amount in that region?
Well, again, Johnny, it's a starting point for us. So, acknowledged that New Zealand definitely are up there in the top. We have that new, as I say, cross-regional tournament. Then another, it's right and proper that we have another oceanic team in there. So that would be Fiji, Samoa, Tonga, PNG, Japan, and Hong Kong certainly could compete for a couple of places within the 16. So, but again, it's up to the teams who are starting us off in 23 to win their matches, not only for their team, but also for their region, to retain that regional spot in that level the following year and not see that drop out or have to go to playoffs or go into the next level. So it's a starting position. And I dare say at the end of 24, we'll have a very different regional structure in level 2 and level 3 than we start off with. So yeah, look, it's giving opportunities there to what we hope is a raft of different regions and a good spread to start us off with, and then the matches and the results of those matches will determine what it looks like then at the end of 24, and then it's all up for discussion, Johnny. That's the point.
Yeah,
we take a little pause for Rugby World Cup 2025. We have more conversations about what's worked, what hasn't, how we can make it better. Can we expand it? Do we need to reduce it? Do we need to alter the number of teams in each level? So it gives us an opportunity to look at it again and say, okay, how can we do this better for 26 to 28?
And just as you mentioned there about 2025, I mean, Johnny's getting excited about all of this.
I am. It's so exciting. It's so exciting.
It is.
Amazing to be able to put it together. It's brilliant.
I think to talk about the regionals and just like one of the biggest statements, everything is to play for. Every game is meaningful. It gives that aspirational pathway to then want to be able to play into the global calendar. But how significant is this for 2025 Rugby World Cup? We know that it's expanding in teams. How important is this competition going to be towards that as well?
Yeah, 2025 is going to a 16-team tournament, which is great as well. Right and proper as well. We are Yeah, we're excited about having all of those teams, having 16 teams play for two really solid years. Beforehand would have been nice to be 3, but it's 2. So we focused on helping the high performance of those teams that maybe need a little assistance. They would be at the sort of bottom end of those 16 teams. Obviously, we're hoping to work the competition WXV into the qualification pathway as well. So, you know, as you're working 3 teams through their regional competition and through WXV, and they're, you know, they have to come back and go through regional again. It would make no sense not to include it really in qualification. So yeah, I think it's going to have a big impact on closing that gap between the top teams and the teams lower down, and you know, helping our high performance assessments, even being able to have regular competition to put around those teams and having regular competition in which to assist them and bring those standards. So it's just helping all boats to rise. It's helping everybody to improve their standards and work towards a really, really competitive 25, and a 29 is the sky's the limit.
Oh, sky's the limit. We love hearing chat like that. Alison, just pretend Dom Rumbles hasn't done lots of training and isn't listening. On a personal level, just how exciting is it to be at the forefront of something that the sport has never done before? And I mean, you've just said it there. The sky's the limit. The trajectory of women's rugby right now is just like that. How, on a personal, how exciting is it?
Johnny Dom Rumbles is always listening. Always listening.
But we can pretend. We can pretend.
I have to say again, and it sounds trite, and I'm not. That's not my intention, but it is a real privilege. It is a real privilege sitting in some of those meetings and listening to, you know, to people who rely on women's rugby for their livelihood, setting aside their personal goals, their, you know, some of their union instructions in some cases, and saying, okay, well, it's not great for us, but we'll do it because it's better for the game. And that is it. It's overwhelming at sometimes, because that's not conversations that you hear a lot of the time in any sport or in any business. People setting aside their own requirements in some cases. So yeah, it's been a real privilege. It's been very interesting, the reaction, and saying, you know, the men's game, obviously, you know, it would be lovely if we could replicate this in the men's game and help some of the teams who are, you know, striving towards Rugby World Cup and do it in some way with them. But it's nice to see that the women are setting the standards, and we're doing it from the top down, and really, you know, really focusing on and saying, unless the teams below the top 6 or below the top 8, unless they start to get better, unless our standards rise across the globe, we're going nowhere. We can't make this a more attractive product. We can't make Rugby World Cup an attractive product. We want to make this something that, you know, that everybody wants to invest in, whether that's fans investing in the price of a ticket to come and see it, or whether it's sponsors investing millions of dollars or pounds in sponsoring a competition. We want to make that product the best we can, and everybody working towards that goal is pretty awe-inspiring. Yeah, it's been a roller coaster couple of years, but it's been great.
COVID chucked in the mix there just to make things a little bit more difficult. And we just want to touch just briefly on 2021 Rugby World Cup, and obviously you're at the heart of that as well. And you had to come to the difficult decision to postpone it to 2022. I mean, how difficult was that decision to come to that? Or was it, you know, actually this is the absolute right thing and it was quite an easy decision to make?
I think emotionally it was a very difficult decision to make. It was a very recognizing that an awful lot of people and an awful lot of athletes had put in an awful lot of hard work with a focus of September 21. That was very tough, but it was the easiest tough decision we've ever made, because it became almost impossible to take a turn in any way, looking at the operations and how we were going to get teams into New Zealand and how we were going to provide a decent environment, and doing that with any kind of credibility and any kind of safe manner. So it really, in the end, the decision almost made itself. So yeah, very tough, and my heart goes out to all of the players who are still struggling with it, I'm sure. But you know, those players and those teams deserve the very best World Cup that we can provide for them, and that is going to be in 22. It wasn't going to be in 21, unfortunately.
Magic. Oh, I want to go and put my boots on and run around the garden and play some rugby. And Alison, genuinely, really great to speak to you this morning. And just great to drill down on some of those details that sort of have been knocking around the sort of, it's kind of quite a tight community, certainly in the UK, the sort of women's rugby sort of fan base, and those questions have been knocking around. So really appreciate you coming on and giving us some clarity, and yeah, inspiring us all. Thank you very much for everything you're doing for the game, and truly groundbreaking stuff. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again. Much appreciated.
Don't be silly, and we'll speak to you down the line.
Okay, talk to you soon. Cheers now.
Cheers, Alison. Bye. I know you take the Mickey Burf out of me getting excited about these things, but I genuinely do, and that is, yes, there's going to be things to iron out. There's going to be the odd little crease, you know, and I think Alison answered some of those sort of major sticking points that people have had. But this is utterly groundbreaking for the sport of rugby. It truly is incredibly exciting.
Yeah, and you know, she spoke very well about the process and how they've got to where they got to, and making sure that all stakeholders are involved in that, and from a player point of view, from the union's point of view in the regions. And you know, hearing her say, you know, that people in that room, it might not fit them right now, but they can see the long-term game of this, and they can see that it will benefit their union in times to come. And I think that's the most exciting and in all part of it, is that we've collectively come together to make this happen, because we know long term it's the right thing to do, and it's the best thing to do for the game as a whole.
Yeah, 100%. To hear that you're in a room with men and women from all areas of the globe, and for those people to put aside even, you know, their union's preferences for the greater good of the game. I mean, so rare, you know. Even here, people can't see past their own club. I mean, and the men's game, it's a million miles away. So incredibly refreshing, and hopefully for those that had a few of those crinkles, few of those creases, that Alison has put some meat on the bone, as it were, hearing from the lady in charge of it all. And yeah, if somebody like her is in charge, there's a steel behind the eyes there, isn't there, with Alison, but a real fun sense of life as well. And yeah, clearly someone who can get stuff done. So well done, Alison, and 3 cheers for the WXV.
A bit.
I wasn't really going to do 3 cheers.
Yeah.
So not a huge amount of news to bring up to date with, Burr. Mainly on the home front. Obviously, that breaking news we touched on at the beginning of the show is the major news, but domestically here in England, Harlequin Saracens already qualify, and Saracens did that with a 34-21 victory over Exeter. You called that.
Yeah, I think knowing how the game went against Exeter Chiefs and Saracens last time, Saracens were out for revenge. But I mean, the first half, you wouldn't have thought it with a down at half time 21-10. But there's just something within Saracens that I wish I knew what it was. The way that they can stay in a fight and turn things around for themselves is unbelievable. How many times have we seen them turn it around for them and to win games, turn around, and I mean like big score lines, and come back from it in 10 or 12 minutes. I've been there. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I mean,
Is it as simple as Alex Austerbury needs to video and bottle his halftime team talks, or is there something else? Have you ever got to the bottom of what it is?
No, I mean, when we had Lottie Clapp over Christmas, I tried to ask her about it, and I think both herself and Alex don't want to be in those positions, to be honest. But what is ever being said at half time, whether it's Alex or whether it's some of the players, or whether it's just, you know, they've got this mindset that can just flick a switch whenever they need it to. I don't know, but it's certainly pretty incredible what they can do in terms of turning fixtures around.
Yeah, because at 21-10 at half time, they were down. Congratulations to Bryony Cleal and Rosie Gallagher. 50 appearance for the club. Good to see those two back. May Campbell, another week, another try. Fairly standard. And Zoe Harrison, 100% off the tee. Congratulations to her. The other big headline game was the Loughborough Lightning. Or should we say probably Loughborough Lightning. Went down 14-36. Didn't see that coming.
No, I expected a close game and probably to go either way. But, you know, Worcester just on incredible form. And the player that is making them be on form and having such an integral part to how the club is playing is Megan Jones. The way that she can light up the entire team, you know, you talk about game changers and big players, and she has become one of the biggest players within the Allianz Premier 15s side. So she is literally lighting up the stage as an individual, but the amount of opportunity she creates for her team is unbelievable. And, you know, when you've got sparks all across the pitch, and then you've got somebody that can create stuff for those, you know, X-Factor players, then, you know, they're a tough side to beat.
When you say those sparks, a lot of them are 7 sparks. Tournament's coming up in May. How does that work then, Berth?
Well, it's a good question, and I don't know a definitive answer on it. Obviously, the GB7s girls are in training at the moment. They're back in camp, and, you know, they're focusing on Rio, and they would have, not Rio, well, going back in time, they're focusing on Tokyo. And I think, you know, right at the start of the season, when, you know, the decisions were made to pull back on the 7s programs, players needed to find clubs and wanted to play rugby. So they would have had those open conversations at their rugby clubs and with the directors of rugby or their head coaches, that was their dream and that's where they want to go to. And I think, you know, the club would have been very supportive of that. So it'd be interesting what happens. But, you know, these players, their dream is to be an Olympic participant, and they want to go to the games. And in order to get themselves into the best position, they need to play some tournaments. With what's happened with COVID, there's not going to be many opportunities to actually play. Therefore, if there's a tournament in May, then I would probably expect to see players go and be a part of that.
Yeah, 100%. Someone is performing on the 15s side of things. Lark Davis, another couple of tries for her. She's a bit like May Campbell, isn't she? Sort of every single week, but she's now the league's top try scorer with 18. She might be coming on the show soon as well. Anyway, your team, Harlequins, put 62 points on to Bristol 7. And a couple of workhorses, a couple of war horses up front back for you. Good to see them back for not only for the quarters, but also the Red Rose of England.
Yeah, no, really good to have, you know, Sarah Beckett back, Vicky Cornborough, and also Emily Robinson. I mean, just having one of those back is going to boost your side, let alone all three in one hit. So, yeah, really great for us to have those back and get us on the front foot and, you know, create some space and opportunities for our players to score. You know, good to see some of the backs getting over on the try line, and that's what we always like to see. And Ellie Green pulling out a drop goal just for the fun of it. You know, the only player to do drop goals in the Allianz Premier 15, so she's enjoying having that stat all to herself. But yeah, no, the focus was to have a really good start and to go and impose ourselves on Bristol. And yeah, the girls absolutely did that, and you know, it gives them a lot of confidence going into this week.
Yeah, well done, Ellie Green. Must be the fruit polos. Sale Sharks against DMP Durham Sharks, the Northern Derby, and a couple of players sort of in the international sort of field pick up some form as well. Not only England but Wales as well. I'm thinking sort of Lisa Newman.
Yeah, no, really good result for South Sharks. I think they would have wanted to have a good result on the back of playing Harlequins the week before, where they had a really good first half but didn't quite finish in the second half or be able to stay in it. So they would have wanted to come out and put on a good display against the local rivals. And yet again, Katie Daly-McLean, MBE, is integral to that. And she's still doing what she did in an England shirt, and great to see that she's driving that squad and the players around her to good things.
Yeah, indeed so. The other game was Gloucester Hartpury, Battle of the M5, against Worcester Warriors. Hartpury just about tipped it 28 points to 24 in a thrilling encounter.
Yeah, such a tight game. And I think we both went for Gloucester Hartpury. But Worcester, we've seen them week in, week out now, starting to edge those performances, and things are starting to come together for them. And to lose it in the death is really tough. I've been there. It's one of the most toughest things to take. But yeah, I think, the likes of Zoe Allcroft being back in the side and being, she was top performer again for her side this week, having played the whole game. She only played half the game against us and managed to get top performer. So, yeah, I think it wasn't expected. I think I expected Gloucester Hartpury to win the game, but not to leave it kind of that late, and real heartbreak for Worcester. And I think it was a real tough one for them to take.
Yeah, 10 minutes in the red, Robin Locke, the flanker, crashed over to win. Zoe Allcroft with a couple of tries herself. Yeah, really good to see her back from an England point of view. So, how does that leave us? Well, Saracens are top on 67, with Quinton second on 61. So, yeah, a little bit of form for them both to take into this weekend's games, which we'll get to in a second. Wasps game in hand, only 2 points behind Loughborough, as they look to go third. Exeter semi-final chance. The other took a knock, didn't they, with that loss to Saracens? But with three games still remaining, it's definitely still possible mathematically. Anyway, same for Gloucester Hartpury as well. Worcester only 1 point ahead of Bristol, as they look to retain seventh, which could be their best finish since the Premier 15s began. Just wonder if that secured was her top 4 place with the games remaining. They got Sale, DMP, Gloucester Hartpury, and Bristol. It's there or thereabouts. It's in their hands, isn't it? That's all you want as a player, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You want to have the opportunity to play into it, and if you're going on form, then those final games are all going to be wins, and potentially 3 of those definitely bonus points with the likes of the side that Wasps is.
Well, that beautifully segues us to the fixtures this weekend. It's must win for Exeter, isn't it? They are hosting Loughborough on Saturday.
Yeah, well, I think it's must win for both sides.
For both.
Yeah, so it's going to be an absolute cracker of a game. Both coming out this weekend on the back of losses. So I know it's something that's always said, but you do learn so much and you always bounce back the following week. So it's going to be an absolute cracker of a game. God, it's really tough to call, but I'm gonna stick with Loughborough.
Berth's going Loughborough. I'm going to go Exeter. So there we go. You have it there. Wasps against Sale. Another game on Saturday.
Wasps on the current form that they're on right now. It'll be really good to see Megan Jones up against Casey Daly-McLean, and watching how she can pull the strings and just seeing how that kind of battle turns out. That'll be really interesting.
You're going Wasps, are you?
Yes, Wasps to win.
I should agree with you. DMP against Hartpury. Sorry, Gloucester Hartpury.
Gloucester Hartpury. They're really competitive at the moment, and we know that DMP are just not where they will be or can be. So yeah, Gloucester Hartbury.
And you rugby, and that's one of the main reasons we love the sport is the fact that if one cog's not working, the whole thing doesn't work. But there seems to be a steal of resolve to Gloucester Hartbury, and it coincides with the return of Zoe Aldcroft. Now, I know Worcester, Laura Keats was playing really well beginning of the season. She gets injured, they lose their way slightly. Can players like that be that influential on a squad and therefore results?
Oh, hugely. Just in terms of their presence. When you've got a player that's got huge quality, it makes you have more confidence in your side. So having someone back and someone like, the two names that you brought up there, Laura Keats and Zoe Alcroft, their leadership skills in what they do and how they can support others and what they do with the ball in hand, off the ball, it drives everybody. And when you've got then everybody driving another couple of percent, then it elevates the whole side. So they can be so instrumental in lifting their entire side and transforming results.
There's an obvious joke there about Harlequins at the moment and what have you, but I wouldn't go there. Yeah, I wouldn't go there. You're away at Sarries this weekend.
Yeah, big game. Huge game. It always is. But, both teams are in a very different place this year. We've had wins, we've had losses. So it's going to be a really, really entertaining game, as it always is. I think, it's going to be tight. It's not going to be a big scoreline one way or the other. I'm absolutely backing Harlequins. I think we've had an incredible season of ups and downs. We've learnt a lot. We've developed a lot. We've got a lot of young players coming through or just new talent coming in. And I think we're in a really, really good place for this weekend.
And you are predicting?
Harlequins.
I'm going Saracens. Sunday, Worcester against Bristol.
Worcester. I think Bristol are in a bad place at the moment. And I think they're really struggling to get themselves out of it. And Worcester just seem to be on this, they level up each week they're playing. They'll take loads from the weekend that's just gone by, and they'll probably think that they should have won that game. And I think they'll look at Bristol and think there's an opportunity here, and we want to secure that spot above them.
Yeah, I'm going to go Worcester as well. So your predictions then was Wasps are going to beat Sale, Gloucester are going to beat DMP, Harlequins are going to beat Saracens. These are all there's 2 away wins there. You're going Loughborough to beat Exeter. And you're going Worcester to beat Bristol.
Yes.
So, I agree with you. Worcester, I'm going to go Exeter, and I'm going to go Saracens. So 2 differences. And that's possibly the only reason why I've done what I've done. Yarnbury Rugby Club are setting up a women's team. Well done, all involved, but particular to, oh no, I thought it was Charlie Beckett, but it's not. It's Charlie Beach. The old, it says in the notes prop. I was like, yeah, Charlie Beckett won't thank me for calling him a prop. No, Charlie Beach, who I believe is son-in-law for Sir Ian McGeechan.
Oh wow!
Yeah, bit of trivia for you. Ex-Wasps and Bath, England under-20s man, who had set up a women's team in Wetherby as well. So, yeah, already 20 players already signed up there. So, well done, Charlie Beach and Yarnbury Rugby Club.
Yes, that's stuff.
Let's finish up with a few shout-outs then, Berth. Alex Donovan has stepped away from international rugby. She's said that she's going to carry on supporting it where she can, because she followed in her father's footsteps as a Welsh international, which she's a personal trainer and yoga, that kind of stuff, isn't she? So, we wish her all the best for the future. Craig Rollinson's still smashing it, Berth.
Yeah, they are. I mean, my mind's still blown about how many steps that they're doing. But, yeah, just a huge congratulations to Craig and everybody at Walsall Rugby Club. You know, they're now over 49 million steps. That's unbelievable. But the most important thing is that they're less than £300 away from their original target. So please, if you can spend £1 or here or €1 here, then please do go towards such a good cause.
Moving much for Walsall Rugby Club. So yes, give those a try. Huge congratulations to former referee, very good referee on a day as well. She's now the lady who heads up all the referees for World Rugby, Alhambra Nieves. She's expecting another baby with her partner, Alberto. Congratulations to them.
Yeah, congratulations to those guys. And just to revisit again, Jill Burns, MBE, is sending a message and what is calling out for all regional and development women's rugby representatives. Honours caps are now available for those who played pre-2012. If you check out the Facebook details for Midlands to Southwest, Southeast, across all the regions, get in touch and you can receive your honours caps there.
Yeah, it's just brilliant, isn't it? From Jill Burns. Did you mention the MBE?
Of course I did.
Thank goodness. Holly Davidson, got to give you a shout out as well. Named as referee for the Pro 14 game between Munster and Benetton. We know Jo Neville's been doing some great things, isn't she? In the trucks at TMO, that England-France game, making that brilliant, very, very clear, concise, correct decision, you and I felt. But yeah, she's a TMO. So first top flight fixture where both positions are filled by females. Another little win.
Yeah, no, really, really brilliant. And, good luck to her.
Indeedy so. Next week then, Berth, that draw's closed on another week. Great to hear from Alison. But we're just going to start to ramp it up now. Six Nations is on its way. Of course, we'll have a bit of a debrief from that huge game from Saracens and Harlequins. But yes, Lark Davis, top try scorer in the Premier 15s, is on next week. We are also hoping, in addition to Lark, to having two of the Six Nations captains on as well. Should the unions allow, hopefully going to get the Scotland captain and the Wales captain, Sean Lillycrap and Rachel Malcolm on the pod. So hopefully we hear back from those unions and we can get them on and just really, get the napkin, pop it in the top of the shirt there and really tuck into the Six Nations from next week. Because now we know what's going on, which is delightful. So, it's a brilliant week all round. Huge thank you to Alison Hughes for coming on and, as we say, giving some in-depth detail to what is a groundbreaking announcement from World Rugby. And yes, there is a slight sense, spoke to one friend actually this week, and it's just a touch of jealousy that the women's game is doing things and doing properly, and the men's game is in such a mess. So anyway, this is not battle of the sexist thing, but no, it's brilliant news for the women's game. Thank you to our team, to Tom, to Harry, to Jenny, to Rugby Nut, to Sean, to Emerson. I haven't missed anyone out, have I?
No, you've got everyone.
Good. And remember, what should everyone do in the meantime, Berth, in the week, if you haven't already, of course?
Yeah, look, catch us on social media, get in touch with us. We're at Pod Women's Rugby on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. You can find us anywhere at the moment. So please do get in touch. Give us your shout outs. Let us know what's happening. Obviously, rugby's coming back. So let us know what your clubs have got involved and what they're doing. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, get that training going. And the Six Nations is coming. Catch you in a week's time.
Until next time.